everyone, my name is Melissa from Inspire Me ASAP. Welcome to Melissa's Monday Mini Lesson. Today I'm excited to continue our conversation about student-led conferences. In my last video, I share with you 6 steps that you could take to successfully implement student-led conferences in your own primary classroom. Since I shared that video, I had a lot of teachers email me some of the questions that they had and some of the concerns that they had about implementing this format in their own classroom. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you what those questions were, and hopefully by the end of the video, you'll feel more confident to be able to implement this approach in your classroom. One of the first questions that I got was, how are you going to talk with the parents privately and address their own questions and concerns about their child? So that's a really good question. When I started the small group format for student-led conferences back in 2015, I had that same question. I was wondering, are parents going to be upset because it is not a private conversation in a traditional parent-teacher conference setting? And so here's what I found was the key. When I send home the note where the parents request the day and time, their preference for the small group format conference, when I send this home, I write a little bit on there, a little sentence or two about if you would like to have a private conversation with just the teacher, please let me know, please email me, and we can arrange that. So I give them the option for signing up for a traditional parent-teacher conference if that's what they prefer. One thing I also found to help address that question is that I send home a pre-conference form. So on that pre-conference form, and you probably do this already, I just have very general questions about what do you want, what questions do you have for me, and are there any concerns that you have? Based on what they fill out on that pre-conference form, I may say, oh, you know what? I am going to request a private conference with you because they have 5 different questions that I know is not going to be addressed in this small group format conference. So that's another way that you could kind of gauge the type of conference that would be best suited for each individual family. In the past, I have had very little families, if any, ever request that private conference, the traditional parent-teacher conference. And I think also one of the reasons why is because I take time at the beginning of the school year in September and October to contact parents. And if I do see a concern that comes about in the classroom with their child, I don't wait to the November conference to address it with them, especially since I'm using this format of conferences. I take the time in August, September, October, whenever it is, to address that with families so that we're already ahead of the game once it's November and we have our student-led conferences. So it is already addressed prior to that. Another question that I had from a teacher was, how did you come up with a 30-minute block of time? That's a great question too. When I first started student-led conferences, I did not know if 30 minutes was going to be too long. It certainly sounds like a long time. All I knew was that the 15 minutes that the district was, providing to us in our traditional format, it was not enough. I was constantly feeling rushed. I was stressed out because if a parent came a couple of minutes late, that would tend to back up the rest of the conferences. And then I had, one late and then the next would be late. And so it just was a domino effect. And it was actually very stressful. So what I wanted to do was create a 30-minute block of time. And actually one year I actually used 45-minute blocks of time. And what I found is that every year that I have done this, I have always been asking the parents or telling the parents, hey guys, time is up. Thank you so much for coming. But in essence, they would have stayed there for as long as time as I would have provided to them. I did not see that 30 minutes or 45 minutes actually was too long. In fact, I saw that they loved the amount of time that was given to really dive deep into the different topics that their child wanted to tell them and talk to them about. Another question that I had was, how do the parents feel about student-led conferences? And that's a great question too. Although I'm well aware of the value of student-led conferences, and I heard good things during the conference time, you never really know how families feel about things until you formally have them fill out some type of feedback form. And I will admit that I was a little bit nervous doing this. I was a little bit nervous giving my parents the feedback form because I was really hoping that it was going to be positive. I thought they went great. I thought they were a big success. I saw, the glow on my students' faces and how proud that they were. But until you actually hear, a week later from parents after they had time to digest and really think about how it went, I didn't really know for sure how they felt. So I was brave, I took a risk, and I did send home that first year that I did it, the student-led conference reflection to all of the parents who attended. And I did have all parents besides one who was out of town attend this conference. And I asked a couple of questions. I said, what did you like about student-led conferences? Do you have any suggestions for areas of improvement for next year? What did you learn about your child as a result of the student-led conferences? And do you have any compliments, comments, or suggestions for me? When I sent these home and I got the feedback from the families, I was so happy and so pleased that I had such positive feedback from every single one of them. Some of the things that they said were just so touching. We really enjoyed the conference. You put a lot of effort into this. My child put a lot of effort into this. Wonderful classroom environment. I loved it. I wish more teachers would do this. Students, this is so beneficial for them. And then I will say that my personal favorite was continue to think outside the box. And that's actually what inspired me to name the resource what it is for what I sell for student-led conferences, is because of that comment from a parent, was continue to think outside the box. And that was just really touching because it was something that I said previously in my first video. I did not know how this was going to go. I was a guinea pig. No one else wanted to do this with me. I didn't know how it was going to go. And based on the feedback that I had, it was a success. I then took these feedback forms and I gave them to my principal, who had full support and, who fully supported me from the get-go. But I wanted him to see, okay, this is what the parents thought. Here's their thoughts. Here's their feelings about it. Here's their voice about how this went. And then my principal wrote back, wow, great feedback, great job. You are really an example of what it means to be a teacher these days. And I still get a little bit teary-eyed when I read that, because it is, it's so nice to hear. It's so nice to hear that that hard work that we put in every day, and it really does pay back in dividends. So that would hopefully address that question. Last but not least, what is another question that I had? Oh, here we go. How much time do the students need to prepare? And this question, unfortunately, I don't really have a cut and dry answer for you, because do the students need to prepare? Yes. Do they need time to prepare? Yes. But what does that look like for you? I cannot tell you that. You are the ones, you are the teacher, you know your students best, based on the grade level that you teach, based on what you teach, how many different subjects that you teach. All of that is taken into account for how much prep time the students need to practice, and then how much time you need to be able to plan what you want to do and how you want to implement these in your classroom. The one thing that I will say is that I don't want these conferences to ever feel staged. I do not want them to feel like, I don't want my students to feel like they are reading from a script. I know one of my years that I was implementing conferences, I actually had my students, I'm trying to see if I find it here. Oh, here we go. I had my students write down a couple of things that they wanted to talk about for each subject area to their mom and dad. And what I found was they didn't refer to it. They didn't need it. They had this as a backup. In my mind, I was thinking it's as a backup, but they really didn't need that. Once they got going and they really started talking to their mom, dad, whoever was there supporting them, once they got talking, they took the reins. They took control. They were happy to share with mom and dad about all the things that they were doing in school, all the projects we were working on. They really didn't need to refer back to those things that they initially said that they wanted to talk about. So I guess the best way to answer that question is to definitely practice, definitely have a few dress rehearsals of boys and girls. Here is, I'm going to start. I will start by introducing everyone when they come in. You start by going to your desk, snapshot of learning like I talked about in the previous video, and then you take it from there, boys and girls. You know what you want to share with your mom and dad. This is your time to shine. And really, that's where the power comes from with these student-led conferences. It is because they are taking control and they are taking ownership of what they want to talk about and what they want to share with their mom and dad. I had another teacher ask me, is it worth it? And I think you know what I'm going to say to that, but yes, 1000%, it is worth it. The main reason why it is worth it is because you will see, I hope that you will see, that the students truly do take ownership over their behavior, over their academics, and ultimately over their learning. Is it time and is it hard to do something differently? Is it hard to do something differently after using this way for the past 4, 5, 10, 15 years? Absolutely. It's a challenge for us as an educator to reflect about our practice and think about how, is this serving my student in the best way? Is it serving their family in the best way? Or can I change it up and can I see a better result? And that's one thing that when I think about, is it worth it? I will say yes, every time. It is absolutely worth it. Those were all the questions that you had for me. I really hope that you have been inspired to think about trying student-led conferences in your own classroom. If you do have questions for me and I did not answer them in this video, please feel free to contact me and to email me, and I'd be happy to address your questions. Take care. Bye-bye.